Good morning, everybody. Welcome and happy Sunday to you all. As you come in this morning, I know I have some singers who are prepared to help me in leading us in some gathering singing today. So if you're one of those singers, I welcome you to come forward. We're gonna all start like this today. Wo ya ya, 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 wo ya. Yeah, keep that going nice and loud for us. Let's hear it. Wo ya ya. We're gonna add a higher harmony. It goes like this. Wo ya ya, wo ya ya. You have those two options. Or wo-ya-ya. Oh, but there's a third harmony. It goes like this. Wo-ya-ya, 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 wo-ya-ya. Keep it going. Beautiful. A little more. Wo-ya-ya means we are going. In the Ghanaian Ga language, we are going. Let's hear it now. You have three options. One is like this. Wo-ya-ya, wo-ya-ya. Let's hear this section do this. Ya, wo-ya-ya. Over here. Wo-ya-ya, wo-ya-ya, wo-ya-ya. Over here. Wo-ya-ya. Add another harmony if you hear it. Yeah, you could add a higher harmony, a lower harmony. 1, 2. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. Wo-ya-ya, 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 wo-ya-ya. As you keep singing wo-ya-ya, will you rise in body or spirit, please, and join us in continuing to sing together. Wo-ya-ya, 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 wo-ya-ya. Beautiful. Good morning, everybody, and thank you. We will begin this morning by staying risen in body or spirit and continuing to sing. Do you like the transition I made there? We will continue to sing together to open our morning with hymn number 203, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky. All creatures of the earth and sky, come kindred, lift your voices high. Alleluia, alleluia, bright burning sun with golden beam, soft shining moon with silver gleam. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Swift rushing wind so wild this flame of fire so strong and bright, and bless us with your warm and light. Alleluia, 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 alleluia.
How sweet it is to begin our service singing together. That was really lovely. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Foothills. Welcome to everybody joining us online. Let's maybe turn around and just give a wave. Good morning, online friends. My name's Elaine Aaron Tenbrink. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm one of the ministers who serves this congregation.
And I am Gretchen. I also use she, her, and alongside Sean Neil Barron, who is actually the guest minister at Plymouth UCC this morning.
Yep.
So we send them our hello. They begin at 10 o'clock, just as we do. We are two of the ministers, and with Sean, all of the ministers that
Yes.
serve this congregation. It is so good to be leading our service this morning with Sophia and Julie and Katie offering music. And as well as Lauren, who's joining us from our family ministry team, and with all of you here who are helping us to hold space for community and for care for one another.
You are welcome here in this community where we remind each other every single Sunday that every person is worthy of love and belonging, and we are all in this life together.
We want to especially welcome you if you are new or you're still feeling like you're finding your way, regardless of how long you might have been coming around. A good place to start, if you haven't yet, is at our welcome table, right in the center, that kind of half circle thing, table thing right in the middle. And sometimes people wonder, like, oh, I've been there, then what? You can go back. They're still nice the second time you go and say hello. They can help you begin to answer any questions and just help you begin to make some connections.
And if you would like to hang out a little bit after the service, we warmly welcome you to our Inquirers series, which is a new set of drop-in programs we have every Sunday at 11:30. And each one gives you a little slice of what it means to be a part of Foothills and a Unitarian Universalist. And today's theme is worship in our Inquirers series. What exactly are we doing here together every Sunday morning? Why on earth are we calling it worship? Come, let's talk. Get to know some new people, get to know some leaders in the congregation, and yes, there will be snacks. It will be in room 222 over in the Chalice Wing.
All of the kids have decided they're coming.
Right, they're all inquirers now.
And for everyone who is not new, you too can help weave the fabric of belonging in our community simply by being on the lookout for anyone who is standing on their own, sort of looking like maybe they're wondering what to do next. You can start that conversation and begin to make connections.
And if you're trying to figure out what should I talk about with this person I'm connecting with, you could walk with them over to our Take Action table here in the social hall. The Take Action table today is being staffed by people involved with our social senior potluck. So if that's something you'd like to learn more about, talk with them. They're also prepared to answer any of your questions about how to get involved here at Foothills. So even if you're not social or a senior, head on over.
Like, for example, if one of your questions is based on Sean's sermon last week, where he was very clear that as you use, you cannot believe whatever you want, and maybe you're wondering now, okay, so then what does it mean to be a Unitarian Universalist, and what are our beliefs? I mean, you might have that as a question.
That is a super good question.
Yes.
That can sometimes be a question that persists. So a great next place to head is to this class that Gretchen is leading. It starts this Tuesday.
It does.
It's called Faith for the Unbeliever. Come hang out with our lead minister and learn all about what it means to be a UU and get your questions answered.
Or at least kind of linger in the questions.
Linger in the
right.
questions. That's what we do together anyway.
So you can come to as many of the classes as you are able. So even if you can't make this first one, it's the next 4 Tuesdays. I'd love to get to know you better and connect around some of these big questions. You can find out more at our events page. That's foothillsuu.org/events.
So the process of finding out what you do believe often starts with realizing that our foundational beliefs no longer fit us anymore. And our service today is all about the emotions that come up when that happens. And in fact, each one of you should have received a smooth black stone when you walked in today. And I want to invite you to hold on to that stone throughout the service, or maybe put it in your pocket. Oh, I put one in my pocket.
Did you forget?
I did forget. Keep it close to you. And throughout the service, let this be a touchstone for you. And you may even want to imagine infusing this stone with the insights that come to you through the service, with the emotions that come to you, and we'll revisit this stone later in our service today.
So let's ground ourselves now, take a big deep breath, and begin our service together. When everything you have ever believed comes apart, when trust breaks and the ground shifts under your feet,
I release all things that no longer serve me.
it can feel like a shattering, an undoing of identity, community, meaning, an irreconcilable ending.
I release all things.
But in the seeds of shattering abides the hope for a new beginning, a letting go, a deepening, a way of moving through life more honestly, authentically, with a faith built not on certain or immutable truths, but with a resilience held dynamically as truth continues to be revealed, truth within ourselves, truth across all of life. That is, a willingness to be wrong and admit it, to change and to be changed, to center complexity and welcome contradiction, to claim this much beauty as the center of life, trusting that after the shattering dawn, a new mosaic of meaning shimmers in the light.
Release all things that no longer serve me. I release all things.
Hello. My name's Lizzie Bringhurst. We've been coming to Foothills for about 1.5 years now. Not members yet, but just barely did the base camp. And it seems a little silly to me that I'm not a member, but like, you know, I'm obviously very involved, like I'm up here, so. You know, there's an understandable reason, given our background, as to why we're not a member yet. Our family comes from a very Christian fundamentalist background, and after leaving that, we were not exactly in a rush to join another church. So I joined Mormonism when I was 18. I was baptized by my now husband, Matt. Matt's family took me in when I was a teenager. They gave me refuge from a troubled home life. I came from a background that was even more conservative than Mormonism, so like, picture Mormonism was actually a step towards progressiveness for me. And, you know, which is wild, because like I literally just came from a nude yoga class last night, so it's just, you know, really experienced the full spectrum of ideologies here in my 35 years of life. Anyone who's the background I originally came from taught that dancing was wrong, taught that as a woman I should not speak in the church. And anyone who's been around me for 5 minutes knows that I like to talk and I like to dance, so I fell out of favor with them relatively young in life. And, you know, that taught submission and inability to speak up also made me a really ripe target for abuse, unfortunately. And that happens with a lot of women in those backgrounds. So I was kind of in the middle of processing the pain of all that, with losing my faith, with the abuse that came with that. There was a lot of confusion, there was fear, and there was that knowledge that I was disappointing my family leaving the church I was in. Like my uncle was the preacher, it was like a whole thing. So in my teenage mind, I thought that finding something to replace it instantly would lessen the pain. Be like, okay, before I leave this and have this whole fallout with my family, I've got to have a game plan. So I started looking into all these religions, and I found Mormonism, and they gave me what I needed at the time, which was a sense of purpose and of structure and community and a way to make sense of the world. And I was always a little more liberally minded, but you know, I lived in Austin, Texas, which is a liberal city, so it was easier to find the progressive Mormons, you know, in that city than it would have been in like small town Utah, you know. So all those things that I gained from Mormonism, I lost the instant that I stopped believing. COVID gave me the time and the space to think about questions that had been bothering me for years. Among them were the history of the church, you know, the history they had with doctrines that actively harmed marginalized groups. And then there was all the issues that I had with Christianity in general. And I reached a point one day in October of 2021 where it was like a light switch, and I was like, I can never believe in this again. And the first thing I felt in that moment was relief, right? I was relieved that I would no longer be associating with an organization doing things that I was ashamed of, that I felt like I always had to justify. I didn't have to keep convincing myself to believe it. But alongside that relief, there was anger and grief and fear. I was angry that I gave over 10% of my income to a corporation that didn't need it, even when our family couldn't afford groceries. And I was angry at my past self for being so deceived. I was afraid of building a sense of community from the ground up without religion, which we had never done before. We were due to move here from Colorado in the next month, so it was really starting from the ground up. And then there was the grief. Even though I was 31 years old, it felt like I was learning about death for the first time. I learned that it might be permanent, and that I would never really know if it was or wasn't, and that the neat little story about being with my family forever and having my own planet if I didn't drink coffee was just a story. So the Mormon version of heaven is a really neat and satisfying roadmap that you can literally draw on a whiteboard in like 5 seconds, which they did frequently. It's a combination of circles and lines, and they're like, these levels of heaven, and it's very, it makes sense, right? And that's what we want as humans. We just want things to make sense, and we live in a very chaotic world. But having that roadmap, while it's comforting in the moment, there is this emotional stunting that came with it for me, where it really kept me from fully processing things like grief and loss and existentialism, and also just the freedom that can come from uncertainty and from keeping an open mind to all possibilities. It took 1.5 years for me to have any interest in coming here. And I was vaguely curious about it as a teenager, but I, again, took a hard right into Mormonism for 14 years. So the only reason we came here at first was because our daughter still wanted a church to be a part of. But personally, I never wanted to be in a church again. I felt like a vampire. There was this burning feeling on my skin when I was near what people called holy ground. So instead, I took that 1.5 years to just observe the world with fresh eyes, to process the loss that I was feeling, the confusion. I journaled excessively. I wrote angsty poetry. I made a deconstruction playlist that now comprises of 85 songs. I listened to podcasts with the stories of other people hurt by their faith and felt catharsis in seeing myself in them. I listened to the perspectives of different people from me, really listened without the ulterior motive of like converting them. And I awkwardly learned how to make friends again. And I cried a lot. For anyone who is currently in a similar stage to here, I want you to know that I am very incredibly happy with my life now, and I'm exploring myself and the world in ways I never would have imagined before. And I have those things that I was looking for, that community, that sense of purpose, those values, and I also have authenticity because I've found those things without having to subscribe to a dogma that just didn't sit right. But those things didn't come right away. That phase of lamentation and just that fallow period was needed. If I had come here right away after leaving, I don't think I would have had as valuable as an experience. There is a pain that comes with recognizing that everything you thought you knew about the world and how it worked was wrong, and that you've got to rebuild all of it. You've got to create new neural pathways. And that is a pain that demands to be felt. It is messy, it is not linear, but I would say, for me at least, it was necessary. So if you're in that period of lamentation, my heart goes out to you, and it'll continue to come up every once in a while, but it does get better. Please join me now in saying the words of our covenant, which begin with the word love. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Thanks, Lizzie. That was awesome. Well, I have been thinking a lot lately about how I feel when I have my version of one of those moments when everything just comes apart. When I thought I knew exactly what was true and just what was coming next. It was very clear exactly how it would all go, and then, no. Like a few years ago when the pandemic first hit, and we all came home from school and work, and then we stayed there for weeks and months and months and months. Or when someone that I love got really sick, and I was scared and worried and confused, and I didn't know if they were going to get better. And I didn't know what I would do or even who I would be if they didn't get better. And then I didn't know what to do with all of that worry and fear when they did get better. It was like all of those feelings just wanted to hang out for some reason. Or like when I became a parent. With babies in my life, nothing went the way I thought it was going to go. Or when I spent my whole life, decades upon decades, feeling very strongly that I did not like church, it was not for me, and I would never be a church person. And then I found myself becoming a religious professional. Nobody was more surprised by that one than me, I think. Have you all had times like that, I bet? Right? Maybe you were moving to a new home or a new city, starting a new school. Maybe there were big changes in your family, like a new child coming in, or a divorce, or a new partner for one of the adults in your life. Those changes can be so exciting and full of possibility, and sometimes they can make everything just feel completely wrong. It reminds me a lot of that movie Inside Out. I think most of you know this one. Yeah? Inside Out 2 just came out, and my family has big plans to go see it very soon. I bet a lot of you have already seen it. They are good for everyone, adults included. In the very first movie, 100 years ago in 2015, when that one comes out, we meet a little baby named Riley. And when she's born, we can see inside of her head to kind of like a command center that's being controlled by these colorful little characters that are her emotions. So we meet joy. We meet sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. Ugh. And all of those feelings and so many more, they're part of who we are. They make us whole. And of course, our whole selves go with us everywhere we go. Have you ever tried to get rid of some of your feelings or pretend they weren't there? You know, thinking about it right now, I don't like anger very much. It feels pretty bad, so I'm gonna just get rid of it.
Oh, hey, oh,
I feel good now.
Lauren, hey, you dropped something.
Oh, no thanks, Elaine. That's my anger, actually, and I just want to be happy all the time, so I got rid of it. So,
Oh, all right. Well,
here, you can have that back.
You know, Lauren, I have enough of my own anger, so I don't want your anger.
No, I really like feeling really good. So there you go.
Oh. Hey, Lauren, you know, not only do I not want your anger, but you need your anger. You need your anger to show you where your boundaries are, or to tell you if somebody's not treating someone else right or not treating you right, or to help you learn that you need to make a change. So just take your anger back.
Ew, Elaine, you're the worst. I can't believe you did that. I'm so mad that you... Oh, okay. Okay, actually, I think I see what you did there.
Right.
All right, so maybe if I keep this, it's not actually because you were being unfair or unkind to me right there, but if somebody was, and I have this, or maybe if I saw someone being mean to somebody else, this might help me know what to do about it. It might help me set a boundary or stand up for somebody else.
You need your anger, Lauren. Keep it.
Okay, I will. Okay, you've convinced me. I will keep it. Thank you. But do you know what I really do think I could do without? My fear. It feels so good to be brave. This has got to go. So, oh, hey, Sophia, you come up on stage a lot. You're really good at being brave. Here, you have this. I don't need it.
I don't want it. I actually have my own fear.
Oh.
Right here. And, you know, my bravery, I do feel brave a lot, but my bravery actually doesn't work without my fear. I have to know what I'm afraid of in order to face it.
I think if I pick it up, this is gonna give me like automatic stage fright or something. Like, I don't want it. Okay, fine, I'll do it. Okay, I can do this. I can keep the fear. But I think there's something else I could get rid of. I don't think I need any sadness. It is useless. Its only purpose is to make me feel awful. I would feel so much lighter without it. I'm gonna get rid of it. Hey, Gretchen, you know what? I think ministers are really good at holding hard things. Here you go. You can have this.
I can do it. I got it.
You got it. There you go.
Oh,
It's for you.
I got it.
You can hold
I got it.
I believe in you. Oh. Good riddance, sadness. I didn't need it. You know what I could go for right now? I'm gonna get some joy.
I don't know, Lauren. This is a lot. I mean, this is really a lot. It's
Gretchen.
It's really yours.
Well, no, you have that, but oopsies. I can't pick up my joy. It's stuck. It's so heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's your sadness, and you need to hold it with me.
With you? Oh, ew. Ew, it's so disgusting. I hate that idea. I don't want it.
I know, Lauren, trust me. I mean, you won't be able to move on. I mean, you won't really be able to find your joy without it.
Really?
I mean, if you just
Hey, I guess
when you need to, then you will
like-
let your to see how much your heart can really hold. You can be strong, and you can see the world clearly. Just because it is sad sometimes, so just be sad and share it with people like me when you need to. Share it. Don't give it away, and it'll move through you, and then you can get to your joy.
maybe we can share it.
I know.
Oh, Gretchen, maybe I can take it.
Yeah,
I think I can take.
yeah.
Oh, it's so sad. Oh.
I know. I know. It is sad. I know.
It's a lot.
I know. You can do it.
I can. Okay. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of think I needed that.
Yeah.
That was a good cry.
Yeah.
And now, maybe, hey, maybe I can find this joy again.
Yeah.
I can hold them both. Wow. Gretchen, I'm kind of thinking this might be what you mean when you talk about that tangled blessing of life. all
Yeah,
the
you
time.
got it. The tangled blessing, the joy
Yeah.
and the sadness.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and hold all of it. And it's kind of awkward to hold all of these things, but I love knowing that I have this whole community here. I have all of you to hold these things with me, and we'll be here to support each other, whatever we're feeling. And even when it feels like everything is coming apart and it's a big old juggled up mess, we can hold it together. In gratitude for all of these things that we hold and so much more, let's sing.
Hope ever, faith ever, strengthening you. Life ever, breath ever, nourishing you. And everywhere you go, may you always be home. And everyone you meet be messengers of peace.
So it is time now for our children and youth to move to their circles across the way, but let's not move yet. So first, we're gonna have all of the kids come forward. Kids and youth, you can come forward right to this area in the front of the stage. And as soon as our kids and youth are done coming forward, adults, I invite you to reach your arms across the aisles to form arches of blessing. And in just a moment, we will pass under these arches on our way to our groups. And parents, you are welcome to walk with your children if you'd like. Let's sing our kids on their way. Some of you go under that one. Guys, could you go under that one?
Hope ever, faith ever, strengthening you. Life ever, breath ever, nourishing you. And everywhere you go, may you always be home. And everyone you meet be messengers of peace. Let your light shine through, and your heart ever be true. Move in grace and gratitude, and walk in wisdom, sharing all that's good. Hope ever, faith ever, strengthening you. Life ever, breath ever, nourishing you. And everywhere you go, may you always be home. And everyone
We have two readings for you this morning. The first is entitled The Way It Is by Rosemary Watola Traumer. Should we take a breath first? Over and over, we break open. We break and we break and we open. For a while, we try to fix the vessel, as if to be broken is bad, as if with glue and tape and a steady hand, we might bring things to perfect again, as if they were ever perfect, as if to be broken is not also perfect, as if to be open is not the path to joy. The vase that's been shattered and cracked will never hold water. Eventually, it will leak. And at some point, perhaps we decide that we are done with picking flowers anyway. We no longer need a place to contain them. We watch them grow just as wildflowers do, unfenced, unmanaged, blossoming only when they're ready. And my God, how beautiful they are amidst the mounting pile of shards.
The second reading is the first checkup after my mother died by Kristen O'Keefe Aptowitz. The doctor noticed me fidgeting with my ears like a toddler and asked if he could look at them. Yes, I told him. They had been bothering me, and I didn't know why. After the examination, he asked if I had been through something traumatic recently. A breakup? Or a loss of a job? Yes, I told him, not wanting to explain. How did you know? Well, he told me, this type of infection is most commonly among people who have gotten in a pattern of holding back tears. If you don't allow those tears to drain the way they are supposed to, they stay inside and cause a lot of pain. Do you think this is what's happening to you? He asked. Yes, I nodded and held back my tears.
In the time between paper maps and smartphones, there was MapQuest. Do you remember that website too? It seems like maybe you do. It was this website where you would generate directions from a computer, but then you just print them up on a piece of paper and take them with you. So it was 2003, and I had just moved to Minneapolis to take my very first job, like my first office job, which happened to be at the Jewish Community Relations Council of Minnesota and the Dakotas. I did not know Minneapolis at all, so every place I went, I would print up something from MapQuest and discover someplace new. And so on this particular day, my MapQuest map took me to St. Louis Park, to the home of maybe it was a board member, or it was some kind of first meeting of some kind of committee. I don't remember many specifics from this day, but I do remember very clearly how I felt. I remember walking through our host's cozy, tastefully decorated home and having a seat on the shady back porch with some kind of nice refreshment. It could have been lemonade. And everybody there on the porch knew each other except for me, because I was new on staff. And the host started asking me a lot of questions. Well, where did you move here from? Why did you choose Minneapolis? And eventually she asked the question that most people I had met in this new role had found some way to get at. Are you Jewish? I totally understood this question. I expected this question. It made sense. I was a blonde, blue-eyed, unknown person who had just moved from out of state to take a job at the public affairs voice of the Jewish community in a part of the country with rather few Jews. So people wanted to know, do you understand us? Will you do right by us? Are you one of us? And I felt confident in my response, which was a set of credentials I had gotten very used to sharing, and honestly that I felt proud of. Well, yes, my dad is Jewish. He grew up in Israel and he moved to the United States when he was 13. I spent a semester on a kibbutz in college. I do speak a little Hebrew. I spent some very early years of my life in the religious school of a Reform synagogue in Kansas City. I even have an Israeli passport. In other words, yeah, I do make sense here. I belong here enough. And then the woman pressed on. Okay, your father's Jewish. Is your mother Jewish? Nobody usually asks this, right? It's too direct. It's rude. And I answered honestly, no, my mother's not Jewish. And then this woman smiled as if she had solved a riddle. Oh, okay, so you're not halachically Jewish. In other words, you're not Jewish according to Jewish law, or halacha. And I wish it weren't so, but something broke inside of me just then. I'm sure it had been building for a long time, but this was that threshold moment that is still seared into my memory. What broke was the belief that I could ever fully belong in Jewish community. There was never a time that I didn't know that according to Jewish law, someone isn't considered fully religiously Jewish unless they were born to a Jewish mother. I had just never spent much time around people who cared very much about this and were vocal about it. My best friends growing up also called themselves half Jewish, and they were Jewish on their dad's side. And before I was born, the fact of my non-Jewish mother marrying my Jewish father, it did cause a huge conflict. But by the time I came along, in my personal experience, I always felt loved. I always felt fully accepted by my mostly secular Jewish family. I always felt enough. And though I'd loved my experiences at the Unitarian Universalist church that I'd attended in high school, I'd always wondered if I might grow up to live life Jewishly. If I could somehow fully and authentically religiously dwell within Judaism. And I absolutely know that there are Jewish communities that would totally accept me for who I am, and I am grateful for that. I still celebrate some Jewish holidays. Our family has a monthly-ish Shabbat dinner. And Ashkenazi Jewish culture and identity, they will always be a part of me. And I know that I can intellectually reject the whole patriarchal concept of the matrilineal descent of Judaism. But that's really not the point. The point is that my heart changed. My insides got rearranged, and I couldn't put them back into the earlier shape. I lost the belief that I could ever fully let down my guard or let go of my need to prove myself, to share those credentials. I lost the belief that one day I could truly feel that I fully belonged in Jewish community without having to sacrifice some other essential part of myself or my wholeness. I lost the belief that I could ever simply say at some point in the future, yeah, I'm Jewish. Judaism will always be an essential part of the mosaic of my spiritual, ethnic, and cultural self, but it will always be a part of a bigger and more complex story, and it will always be qualified. And while that clarity, it feels very honest, it feels authentic, it feels real, I will never stop grieving the loss underneath it. The loss of an inheritance that I couldn't figure out how to receive and hold without dropping other core parts of myself. There will never not be a tension there, though it has morphed in shape and in intensity over time. I will always ache. When the foundational beliefs that we have built our lives around, that we've built our future around, end up crumbling, it hurts. Even if we know that deep down, as a result of this, we can live with greater integrity and more freedom, it still hurts. So many Unitarian Universalists have felt this ache, this disorientation. We are in great part a community of come-inners as Unitarian Universalists. We are mostly, or majority, folks who have left another religion or worldview and found a home here after deconstructing. Some of you have deconstructed the religion you were born into, but then simply couldn't believe anymore, or that you never believed and finally came out about it to yourself and others. Or maybe you left a religious community that you found later in life at a time when you really needed it. Maybe it even saved your life. But you had to walk away because what was once salvific now feels hollow or just deeply off. Others of you have deconstructed an airtight atheism that did not leave room for other pieces that also felt true and real, even if they were not rational or explainable. Religious deconstruction is a big part of the Unitarian Universalist story, and knowing that story enables us to see each other more clearly and to love each other into deeper growth and deeper connection. And this involves hearing each other's stories and sharing our grief. Our grief about the communities we've left or the beliefs we can no longer abide by. And this is often not the first topic of conversation in this arena because it's usually easier to maybe talk about the more positive aspect of things like the relief or the sense of freedom or the newfound sense of self-honesty or possibility. Or if we're being honest, sometimes it's easier to criticize or make fun of what we left behind. This is also a quick and easy way to bond with other people. But as Lizzie reminded us this morning with so much eloquence and honesty, there is a pain that comes with reorganizing everything you thought you knew about how the world worked, and that pain demands to be felt. It is messy, it is not linear, and it is necessary. Religious trauma therapist and educator Laura Anderson notes that for those who have left high control religions in particular, simply grieving itself can be really complicated and confusing. High control religious groups often have certain expectations about how one should grieve, including having only particular valid reasons for grieving, ideas about how long one should grieve, and then spiritual judgments that come when somebody grieves longer or grieves more intensely or more emotively than is considered appropriate. And in these religions, the grieving process often gets cut short through spiritual bypassing, which is a tool that avoids dealing with difficult emotions or painful experiences by placing the focus elsewhere, such as encouraging us to ask what God may be trying to teach us through this experience, or focusing on the fact that we'll be reunited after death with our loved ones in heaven, so there's no reason to be overly sad. And in our grief-avoidant culture, bypassing grief is definitely not limited to particular religious groups. We've all heard the platitudes offered to try and avoid the discomfort of grief and loss. I know I've used them myself at times when I got surprised or I didn't know what else to say, and that phrase was just right there, and I ended up cutting off somebody's storytelling or their capacity to fully share. Over the summer, we've offered a session of a group called Unpacking Our Religious Baggage, which we will continue to offer here at Foothills, so keep looking for it if that sounds like you. And many participants in this group were people who were actively deconstructing their religious beliefs. And Lizzie, who led our chalice this morning, she helped lead this powerful group. Here are some deconstruction losses that this group named. The loss of knowing that you're right, the loss of an obvious connection to divinity or to God, and knowing where to go to find that connection and experience that connection. The loss of a view of death that was a roadmap to escaping this mortal life and its suffering and the promise of the infinite. The loss of Jesus as an answer, and even Jesus as my boyfriend. In her book, When Religion Hurts You, Laura Anderson offers additional aspects of grief that may appear during deconstruction, especially for those people coming out of rigid religious traditions or high-control religious groups. And I'm going to share these in part because the losses of deconstruction can feel so invisible. They're not losses that we have good language for or ritual for. We're often not looking for them, or we might just assume that somebody's so glad to be rid of the thing. And they're not obvious when you meet someone, and they're also very, very real, and they're so present every time we gather in religious community, like we do here at Foothills. And as I share these losses, if you don't personally identify as someone who's undertaken religious deconstruction work, I want to invite you to just try these on anyway. See if they might correspond to some aspect of your own personal journey, or if they might be something that somebody in your life has experienced. Grieving our childhood and adolescence, and the ways in which your growing up experience may have been either stunted or accelerated, or both, to fit religious teachings. You may have been taught not to trust yourself and been discouraged from developing a sense of autonomy and individuality. You may have been required to take on major responsibilities that you weren't ready for, like raising siblings or serving your parents. Grieving our education and the way we were miseducated about the world, had information withheld from us. We're taught a totally different science. We're taught falsehoods and maybe even discouraged from pursuing education past a certain point. And that impacted your goals, your career, even the relationships that you entered into. Grieving our sexuality and the ways in which human sexuality was shamed and suppressed, as well as being taught that gender identities outside the male-female binary or any non-heterosexual sexual orientation was sinful, and the ways that this planted seeds of shame or self-hatred or internalized homophobia or transphobia inside. grieving our view of others in the world, feeling fear, judgment, and rejection of those outside the religious system. This can include grief for our own ignorance around systems of oppression and what's happening with our climate and our planet. And then finally, there's the grieving of what was good. Grieving the sense of belonging and community, the powerful worship experiences, the support received in times of hardship, and grieving that sense of certainty. Even if it was the right thing to have left the religion of your past behind, it is so normal to miss and to want again those parts that felt so good, including missing the experience of certainty, even when that belief system doesn't make sense to you anymore. The grief and loss of deconstruction are very real. And when our belief system breaks and the future we were counting on shatters, however that happens in your life, grieving is not optional, and it isn't linear, and it's messy, and it demands to be heard. In the words of hospital chaplain J.S. Park, grief, it seems, is not about letting go, but about letting in. Not about letting go, but about letting in. And if grief is about letting in, then we attempt to bypass or speed through our grief at our own peril. Avoiding grieving can deepen our heart sickness. It can manifest as anger or anxiety or depression. And as we heard in our reading this morning, it can even make us sick. And yet, of course, it's so tempting to just avoid it. Avoid the crying, avoid the feeling, avoid the crush of grief. Because who really wants to surf the waves of pain and fear and emptiness and loss? But this very thing that we want to avoid, it's actually our medicine. Telling our stories and letting our hearts break. Finding and feeling those feelings that we wish we could just fling away like colored bean bags. I want to read you a poem by Andrea Gibson, who's our Colorado Poet Laureate, and who is so great, deserves all the whoops. She writes, "Let your heart break so your spirit doesn't." Right? It's a one sentence poem. Let your heart break so your spirit doesn't. When we tell our stories of all we've lost, both the beautiful and the ugly, and when we let our hearts break for our broken beliefs and the future that will never come to pass, we keep that pilot light of our soul lit. And in telling the truth, we refuse to abandon ourselves. In letting our tears soften our hearts, we open ourselves to growth and transformation that we just can't get to if we don't do those things. And when we open ourselves up, we also remind ourselves that openness is the path to joy, too. So let us be there for each other in this process, turning towards each other, each one of us making room to hold the shards of broken beliefs and dreams with the next one, bearing compassionate witness, reminding each other that this whole time the future has remained alive. The future is still unwritten, and it is breathing with possibility. And this is not the end of the story. The ache might always be there, pulsing within the pieces of our broken beliefs. But every time we welcome the tears and we tell the story and we move along with the grief, we plant the seeds of the future. May we watch those seeds grow just as wildflowers do, unfenced, unmanaged, blossoming only when they're ready. And my God, how beautiful they are amidst the mounting pile of shards. May it be so. Amen.
Oh, gather up the brokenness and bring it to me now. The fragrance of those promises you never dared to vow. The splinters that you carry, the cross you left behind. Come, healing of the body, come, healing of the mind, and let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come, healing of the spirit, come, healing of the limb.
I invite you just to breathe together now. Maybe find that stone, that little stone. Hold it between your fingers. And imagine all the feelings that you might have been infusing it with this whole time, or maybe imagine the ways it's been infused with the feelings that are present in others here. What it means to be a part of a whole community, each with their own stories, their own doubts, their own questions, their own griefs, their own joys. Maybe even infused with the folks who are joining us online, all the people we can't even see, out in the wider community, the ways that we're all interconnected. And just hold that here and keep breathing. Into this space, we make room for grief. We allow our hearts to break, knowing that it means we refuse to abandon ourselves. Here we risk, and it's always a risk, the possibility of community. Tentatively and tenderly, we practice trusting again. We risk relationship. We risk being real with each other, with ourselves. We risk bringing our real questions, our real doubt, our real fears for this world, for our own lives, for our children, for those yet to come. We risk our regret, our sorrow, our forgiveness, our longing for forgiveness. And also we risk our hope and our joy, our real joy, which is built not on turning away from life's pain, but leaning in and trusting in a love that is bigger than any one of us, that is still yet holding us all. Through it all, may we be a part of this love, partner with it, knowing we can be a part of it, but also it isn't all on us. We're just a part, which means sometimes our job is just to receive. This morning, we are especially holding in our community members Mary Louise Garrick, Ken Houle, Bill Timpson, and Gail Marie Kimmel, as they are each recovering from surgeries and health challenges. May they feel the care and love of this community surrounding them in their healing journey. And we are also holding today our newest partner who has joined us in membership after just a short time, Turl. We are so grateful for you and for the trust you offer us in making this partnership official. And we give thanks for all of life, for all of its tangled blessing, and for the healing that comes knowing we never journey alone, that we are always held in the power of courageous love.
Behold the gates of mercy in arbitrary space, and none of us deserving of the cruelty or the grace. Oh, solitude of longing, where love has been confined, come healing of the body, come healing of the mind. Oh, see the darkness yielding that tore the light apart, come healing of the reason, come healing of the heart.
Oh, troubled dust concealing and undivided love, the heart beneath is teaching to the broken heart above. Let the heavens falter and let the earth proclaim, come healing of the altar, come healing of the name.
Oh, longing of the branches to lift the little bud. Oh, longing of the arteries to purify the blood. And let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn, come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb. Oh, let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn, come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb.
As many of you know, I was raised Catholic. I was very active in my Catholic church. But then I went to college and I took a class on feminism, which is basically my 6-word story of my own deconstruction. I took a class on feminism. Because after that, I could no longer be Catholic because it was like, oh, right, patriarchy. Not my religion. But as a person who was raised Catholic, there were certain things that we just didn't learn or get access to. One of those things being reproductive health care. Because, I wasn't yet married. Before college, I didn't know anything, say, for example, about condoms or other methods to prevent STIs. I knew nothing about birth control. I definitely didn't have access to birth control or anyone who I would talk to about getting on birth control. It is one of the many reasons I am so grateful for Planned Parenthood. Maybe right now you're thinking of your own story of being about 18, Because like many young adults, I remember walking very clearly that first time into that very first Planned Parenthood. It was in Tacoma, Washington. I took full advantage of their completely accessible and also 100% free services, both for healthcare throughout college, as well as just education and consultation about what choices made sense for me. I was so relieved to have a judgment-free zone where I could show up with whatever questions I had and receive the support that I needed. Planned Parenthood was, for me, a part of my moving through deconstruction into a reconstructed understanding of life. And it's a role that Planned Parenthood plays across our country and in our own community. It is there for people across the whole of their life to be that judgment-free, accessible, community-based health provider that helps people make their own choices based in their own values, which is today a literally life-saving role in our community. We are so grateful this month to be supporting the Rocky Mountain Planned Parenthood, our key partner in our work for reproductive justice and in moving towards healing for us all. So that means that everything you place in the basket or donate by texting the word share plus an amount to the number on the screen will be shared equally with Rocky Mountain Planned Parenthood and to continue to support our mission of unleashing courageous love in Northern Colorado and far beyond. We will now gratefully receive your offering.
We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones. 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 We've been waiting. We are the ones. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones, we are the ones we've been waiting. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones.
As we enter into our time of gratitude, I want to begin with lifting up gratitude for the life of Bernice Johnson Regan, who composed the song that we just sang together. Bernice Regan was a powerful civil rights activist. She was a founder of the a cappella group Sweet Honey in the Rock, and she died this past Tuesday at the age of 81. We lift up gratitude for her life. Let us also lift up gratitude for all of the ancestors whose music we have gotten to experience. All those people who have created music that have helped us move through hard times, that have music that's brought the tears that couldn't have come any other way, art that expressed things that we felt that go way beyond words and help us feel understood. Those experiences that join us in our joy and make us want to dance and shout and move together with other people and have those communal experiences of artistry and beauty. We lift up our thanks. And in this spirit of gratitude, I want to invite us to also open our hearts to that which we're feeling grateful for this morning. Those people who help us feel seen, whatever it is that made the morning a little better, whatever it is in your life right now that makes things good or better or not totally bad. Let those gratitudes come into your heart. Let them fill you up. And as we feel those gratitudes inside, I want to invite you to rise in body or in spirit so that we can make music together once again, so that we can be together in our joy.
This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This strength that I have, this strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it. This love, add a harmony if you want. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This love that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. This pride that I have, this pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This peace that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take. One more time with this joy that I have, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
All right. So as we prepare to leave this space and move back out into our lives, let us continue that breaking open and open and open again. I want you to go with this little stone. This stone is all those parts of yourself that the world did not give to you and the world cannot take away. Your dignity, your strength, your joy, your pride, your truth, your integrity. Keep this little stone. May I suggest it goes well on a dashboard or a cup holder or wherever you keep your coins. And let this stone remind you that it is okay to let your heart break so that your spirit doesn't. And that openness also is the path to joy. Go in peace and in love. Amen.